Good morning, my name is Julia. Welcome to my channel. We're just gonna dive in today. Really, this video is probably just gonna be getting some stuff done and prepped and cooked. I only have one weekend day this weekend. It is Sunday. I worked yesterday, and when I work on weekends for work, I do have the ability to flex that time, but I opted to flex that time next week instead of this week. So I'm only working 4 days next week, which is awesome. But that means that I only have one weekend day to kind of like get all my stuff back in order. So this morning I made a grocery list, went out and got groceries, and now I've got some food prep that I'm trying to do. I'm gonna cook some lunch and got the dishwasher running. I have a basket full of laundry that I'm hoping to fold. But yeah, we're really just gonna try to get as much done today as we can while still leaving some time for fun. My husband only has a couple hours of work today. He's a youth baseball coach, and normally if he doesn't have games and practices and stuff, he does private lessons and clinics and stuff like that. And today is Mother's Day, so he's had a bunch of people cancel on his lessons today, which is great. So he'll be home not too long from now, and I'm hoping that I'm gonna get this lunch cooked up that we can both enjoy. So if I'm gonna do that, I've gotta get to prep it. I have a pineapple that I am going to cut up, and I also have a couple of bell peppers that I'm gonna slice. My husband likes to eat hummus with carrots and peppers during the week, like lunchtime kind of food, and it's just a lot easier when we get those prepped ahead of time, so they're just like ready in the fridge. I've kind of been on a pineapple kick recently. They were on sale at my grocery store. Well, I don't know if they were on sale actually. They were for sale for like $3, and I was like, oh, what a great deal. But then I saw them at Aldi not too long after that for like $1, and they were a little bit more expensive at Aldi this week, but still I think it was like $1.50 or $2. So it is a little on the smaller side, but it's just so delicious. Hopefully this one is as good as the last couple ones I've gotten. Pineapple is one of these fruits that I never really ate. Well, it's not that I didn't eat it growing up. I never really saw anybody cut a pineapple. So I kind of got older not necessarily knowing how to cut one, which is silly, especially in the age of the internet. Like, it's not that hard to just look up and find out the best way to cut a pineapple. But I have found over the last few years of watching other people on YouTube that do like food prep and meal prep and just watching them cook in their kitchens, I've picked up a lot of, I don't know, tips and tricks, and it seems so obvious now how to cut a pineapple. So now I feel like I'm a pro at it. Whoops. I'll admit that this is not the best pineapple I've ever had. The color, I can tell on the screen, looks probably whiter than it is in real life, but it is not a super yellow pineapple. Flavor is actually not too bad. It's just like maybe a little more starchy than I would prefer. I'm sure it'll continue to get a little more ripe and soft, but we might eat it before it gets there. Oh, another thing I got prepped earlier today is some cinnamon raisin bread. That's all chopped. The cinnamon raisin bread I've only made a couple of times. I use my same crusty no-knead bread recipe, but then I add sugar, brown sugar, cinnamon, and raisins. So if you want to see the original no-knead crusty bread recipe, I can link that video in the description for you. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw this cinnamon raisin variation from, I think it's from the Frugal Fit Mom, and I've only made it this way a couple of times, but it is so good. It was like bakery style, like just the right amount of sweetness. Oh my God, I actually haven't made bread in quite a while. So I'm really excited to have some delicious like cinnamon toast with a little bit of butter on it. Ugh, I can't wait. But in the meantime, I'm gonna rinse off my cutting board and move on to cutting a couple of peppers. Again, my husband eats like hummus during the week, during lunchtime, whatever, and it's just really helpful to have carrots and hummus sliced and prepped in the fridge. I don't always do it for him, but I'm home and he's not, and I'm gonna do it. I gave these both a little wash, and I can see that this one has got kind of a not so great spot, so I'm just gonna cut that part off, and the rest of the pepper is totally fine. Here we go. That'll go into compost. And you know what, before I start, this is a container that was already in the fridge, so I will just add what we sliced today into that container. I think I underestimated how much space I had, but you know, I think I'm just gonna make it work. Maybe I won't. We'll do a little splitsies. Alrighty. Okay, now this is where things are gonna start to get interesting. I'm gonna move on to starting to prep lunch, which is something that I technically have never made. I tried to make this once, maybe like 6 years ago, and either I didn't follow a recipe or I found a really bad recipe, but it did not turn out right. And I'm excited. I'm gonna try to cook a Spanish tortilla. If you don't know what a Spanish tortilla is, it is not a Mexican tortilla. It is not a bread. It is actually kind of like a potato omelet. It's egg-based, it's got potatoes and onions. And for some reason the other day, it just kind of like came to me, this memory of eating, basically it's called a tortilla sandwich, when I was in Spain probably 7 years ago visiting a friend who lived there. We were super hungover. I was super hungover. We were traveling between cities. We were taking a bus, and the bus stopped at a rest stop. I needed some food, and my friend was like, oh, you're gonna like this. And it's basically like a sandwich roll with this Spanish tortilla on it. So it was basically an egg, potato, onion sandwich. And it was so good. And I don't know if it's just the memory is better than it actually is, but yeah, I just had this like longing for Spanish tortilla. So I got the ingredients. I'm gonna give it a try. I'm grabbing my computer to pull up the recipe and just read through. So basically, if I understand this correctly, I peel the potatoes, rinse them under cold water and slice them. And then I sprinkle them with salt and fry them for about 20 minutes in some olive oil. While that is cooking, I beat together some eggs with salt, and I slice onion and like low fry that for another about 10 to 20 minutes until they begin to soften and caramelize. And then when those are caramelized, I basically drain them, add them to the egg mixture, and remove the potatoes, let them sort of drain their excess oil. Once those cool a little bit, I add it all together, put it in a pan, and cook it. And then there's like an interesting flip that has to take place, and then you slice it and serve it. It doesn't sound that complicated, but I just have a memory of this being not so simple. So I'm gonna give it a go. Sometimes we have wins and sometimes we have fails, and either way, we're gonna try and it's gonna be great. it's a learning experience no matter what. Okay, I have about 2 pounds of potatoes in my hands. These are gonna get a good rinse, and then I will peel. I'm going to peel these potatoes and then rinse them in cold water and then slice them. The recipe says a mandolin is helpful to get them sliced easily and uniformly, but your girl doesn't have a mandolin, so we will be slicing these by hand. My husband just called me. He is on his way home from work. I was hoping that I would get a little bit further along getting this prepped before he came home. Just might be having lunch a little bit later, delayed after he gets home, which is fine. I didn't promise him lunch or anything. Honestly, 90% of the time I'm like, sorry, I didn't I didn't plan food. Sorry, I didn't cook tonight. I feel bad when I do that on the nights when he works until like 9 p.m. and he doesn't get home till like 9:30 or even later sometimes. And I just, leave him to fend for himself when he gets home super late. But other than that, it doesn't really bother him. He's always happy to like scrounge and find something. And when he is home, he works a lot of nights and weekends, so it's not easy for him to cook dinner. But when he is home for dinner, he does cook. He has a few dishes that he keeps on regular rotation, and I really appreciate that. One of the things that he cooks is salmon. I don't eat a whole lot of meat, and I never ate a whole lot of seafood, but I do eat fish occasionally, and salmon is one of those things that I don't mind eating. I just really do not enjoy cooking it or touching it raw. I feel that way about all raw meat and stuff. I really don't enjoy it in its raw state. So he does that. And in fact, since he's home for dinner tonight, perhaps he will cook salmon for us tonight. I did just grab some when I was at the grocery store. It's definitely challenging working regular 9 to 5 hours and being married to somebody who does not work those same hours. He basically works all the time that I am not working. I know I said that I worked Saturday this weekend, but I don't work weekends very often. It's probably like once every 6 weeks, sometimes longer than that. But he works whenever kids aren't in school, really. So it's kind of a bummer. It's kind of hard to just make sure that we're prioritizing time with each other. And I have had to learn that he also needs time for himself. So in his really busy seasons, it's not necessarily fair for me to expect that every second he has during the day or on a weekend that he's not working, that's time that we should spend together. He got really burnt out. I don't know if it was last year or a couple years ago, and it just made me realize that even though I miss him and want to spend time with him, and that's not to say that he doesn't miss me and want to spend time with me too, but I have tons of me time all the time when he is at work. Basically, it's me time, and he doesn't necessarily have that same privilege, especially in the summertime when kids aren't in school. He's busy during the day and at night and on the weekends, whereas in his slower seasons, he's home during the day. He doesn't leave to go to work until like 2 or 3 or sometimes even later than that. So it's just a balancing act that we've been learning to manage. He didn't work as a baseball coach full time when we met. I probably worked more weekends when we met than I do now. We're in a phase where we're just figuring out how to find balance and prioritize time for us to be together. Okay, potatoes are sliced. I'm gonna get these skins into my freezer for compost. I'm gonna give these a rinse in cold water and then get them sliced. These are rinsed. I'm gonna grab a bowl. There we go. The recipe says that these should be sliced approximately 1/2 centimeter thick. I'm gonna do my best because, like I said, I don't have a mandolin, so I'm really I'm really just trying my best. We've got our potatoes sliced. Now I'm just gonna check in with my recipe. Well, I did one thing a little bit wrong. I'm supposed to pat these dry. Normally, I don't really use paper towels so much at home. I try to just use rags and towels, but I just don't really feel like having starchy rags that I have to clean because I'm not gonna do a load of towels for a while, so I just don't want them getting gross and starchy and sitting there. So I've just got some paper towels, patting my potatoes dry. And after this, I'm going to sprinkle them with salt. Now here's something mildly infuriating. It says in the ingredients list, salt to taste. How am I gonna taste raw potatoes? I'm not, so this is really just gonna be a guessing game. I do know that potatoes can take quite a lot of salt, so I am gonna go on the liberal side. I'm not gonna be too skimpy with it. Now I'm going to grab some olive oil, and honestly I might even need my backup because I think I need about a ½ inch of oil in my pan. And I bring this to heat over medium low. That's not a ½ inch, that is quite skimpy. Oh, you know what? Maybe it's not as skimpy as I thought. And I'm gonna let this come to heat gently. While this is heating, I'm gonna get the eggs beaten and salted. The recipe calls for 8 eggs, and I am so excited. One of my coworkers, my executive director at work actually, her parents have chickens. So every once in a while she brings in like several dozens of eggs from her chickens. And oh my God, it's my favorite thing. So I do have 9 eggs and I only need 8 of them, but look how beautiful these eggs are. Days like this, when I have like big cooking plans, I really just daydream about when I one day hopefully will have a kitchen that has more counter space. It is so infuriating as somebody who loves to cook and bake that I barely have the counter space to do the bare minimum of cooking. I know someday I'm gonna be so grateful to have a bigger kitchen, but I'm grateful that I have any kitchen that I can cook in these days, I suppose. You know, I think I'm actually gonna do the 9 of these because some of them are a little bit on the smaller side. I don't know if you can tell. These eggs are so beautiful inside as well. The yolks are bright orange and the whites are really also yellow. The difference between the regular crappy eggs that I buy at Aldi and these fresh, local, homegrown eggs, it is just night and day. It's completely unbeatable. And don't be fooled, they're in an Aldi container, but as you can see, the date that they were, do you call them harvested? The date that they were laid and collected has been reused. This carton has been reused a bunch of times and they just write the new date every time they use it. So I will bring this back to work and I will whip these up. And I will add a bit of salt to this as well. Now, let me check on my oil. I think I'm going to get my potatoes put in. All right, I hear some noise starting, so I'm gonna get all my potatoes into my oil gently and carefully so as to not burn myself with popping oil. The recipe does say to add more oil if you need to, just to cover the potatoes. And then these are gonna go for about 20 minutes. And I might turn up the heat just a bit as well, just to get it going. Okay, I think that's good enough. Michael just got home, so if you hear any crunching in the background, he is having a little pre-lunch snack of those veggies that I just prepped with hummus. So, while these potatoes get cooking, and I'm noting what time it is to leave them in there for about 20 minutes, I am now going to move on to slicing my onion. It does call for a whole large onion. I have about a medium onion, and that is what I'm gonna use. And then basically low and slow cook them until they're like starting to caramelize, like very soft and hopefully very flavorful. I don't know if I'm supposed to be stirring these potatoes at all while they cook. I'm kind of nervous that if I don't, the bottom is gonna get burnt. I don't know. The recipe does not say. So we're just gonna leave them, I guess. Now, onion. And we're gonna get slicing. This also calls for very thin slices. Again, a mandolin would be helpful, but I do not have one. Thinly sliced. I'd say I did a pretty good job for not having a mandolin. And I'm gonna get these sauteing in some additional olive oil in a separate frying pan. These are gonna cook super low and slow. 10 to 20 minutes on this, it said. Separate these rings a little bit. And just checking in on our potatoes. They are cooking away. It's been almost 10 minutes since I put them in. So we're just gonna let these keep going while these cook down as well. Okay, the potatoes have been going for just about 20 minutes. I did end up stirring them a bit because the bottom was sticking and those pieces were getting extra brown, so you can see some of those bits. A lot of the pieces did break up, but the recipe says that that is okay. So I think I'm gonna turn this off in just a minute and remove these with a slotted spoon and just let them drain some excess oil in a colander. And my onions are definitely just starting to caramelize. It's been about 10 minutes since these have been going. So I'm gonna let these keep going while I remove the potatoes, and then I will let everything sort of cool a little bit and then add them to the egg mixture. I did not realize that I also have to let the egg mixture sit for 20 minutes once I add the potatoes and onions to it. This is taking a long time and I'm hungry and I just want to eat, so maybe I'll get a couple of chores done while that is sitting. I can get the vacuuming done, at least something like that. You can see some of those really nice deep fried bits. Those are going to be so delicious. And while that sits, we'll check on the onions. Yes, they are starting to caramelize just a bit. So I think I will probably turn the heat off on these. If I wasn't so hungry and didn't want to get this over with so I could eat it, I would probably let these go even longer, because when you can get those onions really jammy and just like deep and rich, they're so delicious. But this is going to do just fine. So I will turn the heat off on this and let that cool just a bit before I transfer everything to my egg mixture. Forgot to show you, I added the the onions into the egg mixture. Gave them a little bit of a stir, and I am still waiting for these to cool down just a tiny bit more. But once I add those, we are just gonna let that sit for 20 minutes and I will come back and show you when we get this cooking. Okay, it's just about been 20 minutes. I'm gonna turn the heat on my pan. Technically, the recipe says that you should use the same pan that you cooked your potatoes in, but I'm gonna use the same pan that I cooked my onions in because I haven't dealt with this oil, and also this is not the kind of pan that they want you to cook this in because you have to flip it and whatever. So I'm gonna get this pan turned over some low heat to start warming up, and by the time it is heated, it should be ready for, or the egg mixture should be ready to go in. Woo! I do think this pan is larger than what you would normally cook this in because you are supposed to be able to facilitate the flip using a plate, and I do not have any plates that are, I don't know, this is like a 12 or 14 inch skillet, so we're gonna have to improvise, but for now we're just gonna let this cook on medium-low heat for 6 to 8 minutes, but I might actually do a little bit shorter than that because the pan is so big, so it should cook through a little more quickly than if it was, you know, deeper. I've enlisted some help to try to flip this, so I just literally don't know how we're gonna do this. Here is us trying. So I want to slide it on here.
Yep.
Crap, it's better.
Do you want to turn the heat off?
No, it's fine. This is a better idea. Slide it this way. Put this.
Oh.
I don't think it's totally unstuck though. Can I see the spatula? So I think the problem is that the bottom was sticking, so we couldn't get it to just like flip out or slide out even if we had a better way to do it. So that is gonna have to be something that I try to fix.
Yeah. Nice job.
Yeah, so that is not quite ideal, but now...
Put that over the top and then we...
Oh yeah, so we'll push this like that.
Sorry.
God.
All right. Hold.
Oh,
Do you want to do it?
Egg.
Do you want my help?
I do want your help. Can you grab like a towel or something and put it on? Yeah. But I'm gonna flip it this way. So put. Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Pull that out. Okay.
Wow.
Kind of, a little bit.
Wow.
Well, let me see this. Now we'll just...
Cool.
Okay. And we'll cook it some more. You know, it could be worse, honestly.
Should you put a lid on it just to cook the top? Because I think the top should be fully cooked.
Yeah, the whole thing should be fully cooked.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's still gonna taste delicious.
Yeah.
It just maybe didn't cook the way it's supposed to, but that's okay. Like I said before, even if it's a fail, it's still a win because it's a learning experience, and perhaps in the future, I either try something different or I just make it a scramble instead of cooking it the traditional way. There's no way that this is gonna come out of this pan for any sort of nice presentation. We're just gonna scoop it onto our plates, I think. Are you gonna have some?
Yeah. That's okay.
Yeah. You wanna serve yourself?
Yeah.
Okay. we are tasting the tortilla. Michael has already had a bite and he said that it is good. It is good. It's not quite like I remember it, but again, I don't think I cooked it in a super traditional way. I'm gonna add a little bit of salt to mine. Michael's gonna add some sriracha to his. This is good. It was a lot of work and a lot of different steps and then also a lot of waiting. So I can't say that I will be making this anytime soon, but like I said, if I do make it again, I will probably consider making it a scramble as to not deal with the flipping and the sticking on the bottom, or I just have to do a little bit of research and find a better method to do it.
I think it's good too.
Thank you. Oh! We are gonna finish our lunch and then we're gonna have a good rest of our Sunday afternoon. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new here and you haven't subscribed yet, or if you're not new but you've been liking what you see, please consider subscribing. It means a lot to me. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. If you have any tips on cooking a Spanish tortilla, drop them in the comments down below because I would like to have some vindication with this someday. Anyway, thanks so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.